Hello everyone, and welcome back to another of our weekly sessions in English here at the Prado Museum, sponsored by the American Friends of the Prado Museum. And today I'm really excited to share with you some good news because we've had a lot of interest, we've had numerous requests for you to learn more about the collections of the Prado in English, and so the American Friends is going to launch a new course. It's going to be a month-long course split up into 4 different classes that will take place here on the Prado's campus in the classroom of the American Friends of the Prado Museum. You can attend the course in person here in Madrid. You can come in person to the classroom, or you can also attend online. So you can sign up for this course from anywhere in the world and get a deeper dive, get to know a little bit more about the history of the Prado and its collections. And I'll be teaching the course, so I look forward to seeing you all there. Today we are in the exhibit on Mengs, on Anton Raphael Mengs. It's a beautiful exhibit, so I'm really excited to share some of it with you today. Anton Raphael Mengs was born in 1728 in Bohemia, and he trained in Dresden and in Rome. And his father was also a painter. His father, Ismail Mengs, was also a painter. And Ismail named his son after 2 painters. He named him after Antonio Allegri, also known as Correggio, and Raphael, 2 painters that he really admired, and 2 painters that we're going to see that Mengs also admires a lot and tries to emulate. So Anton Raphael Mengs is this remembering of Correggio and Raphael. But his father was really strict. His father takes him to Rome for his training, and when he was there, there are anecdotes about his upbringing and about his artistic training. His father would drop him off at the Vatican in the morning and send him with some papers and some pencils and a little bit of bread, and have him draw things in the Vatican all day long. And when he would pick him up in the evening, if his father liked what he had drawn, then he would take him and have dinner. And if he didn't like what he had drawn, then all he had to eat that day was just bread, and he'd have to go and try again the next day. So he had this very severe, very strict upbringing, and Mengs was known to have a severe character himself as well. And he painted this self-portrait around 1765, and we see him here at a little less than half length. He's holding a bundle of brushes, and he's casually dressed, wearing this nice fur-trimmed kind of reddish-brown gown, and he has a red scarf tied around his neck. And his painting here is a little bit freer, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit less polished and perfect than what we see in some of his other more formal portraits of the royal family. We'll be seeing a few of those in a minute. So historians think that maybe this self-portrait was perhaps unfinished, maybe it needed a little bit more touching up, or it could have been something that was for a friend, somebody that was close to him. And we have Mengs' portrait here exhibited next to another very important protagonist in the exhibit, which is Johann Winckelmann. Johann Winckelmann is a fundamental figure in the history of art, particularly the study of Greek art, but really in the methodology of how we study the history of art in general. And the 2 of these men were very close for years. They had deep conversations, they shared correspondence, and they really had this fruitful professional relationship, this kind of intellectual symbiosis, and also a friendship. This friendship, though, ended rather abruptly because Mengs painted a fresco. Of course, Winckelmann is studying Greek art and is trying to identify different objects of Greek art, and Mengs painted this fresco to imitate a Greek fresco. We know that it's not. We know that we think that Mengs probably did this, and this is a forgery. But when Winckelmann found it, he said it was one of the most beautiful things to come to us from antiquity. He fell for the trick. And so when the truth of Mengs' forgery came out, Winckelmann was really ridiculed in intellectual circles, and his methodologies were placed into doubt. And of course, this is going to end in the indefinite separation between the 2. So this exhibit and the exhibit catalog, the essays that are in it, are really interesting because they delve into this question of why Mengs would do something like this to Winckelmann, why he would set him up in this kind of trickery. And there's a lot that we can say about that. There's a lot more that that the curator of this exhibit has shown about this moment of history, and maybe what it says about how Mengs sees his own idea of the arts and the reestablishment of the arts, because Mengs really was a key figure in what he saw as the reestablishment of the arts. He was a critical figure in the 18th century, one of the most influential artists of the 18th century, and the main driver of the movement that later we're going to call Neoclassicism. But during his time is understood really as this authentic reestablishment of the arts. And he was very important in his lifetime. He painted a lot, he wrote a lot, and after his death in 1779, he was hailed in books, this proliferation of publications, as the new Raphael, the German Raphael. But in generations that followed, interestingly enough, his popularity really declined. Probably in large part because the Romantic period that followed didn't appreciate the ideas and the aesthetic of Mengs' work in the same way. But unfortunately, some of those preconceived notions have lasted even until today. They've come down to us today. And so part of the reason that this exhibit is so important is because we get to have a fresh look at one of these fundamental minds and fundamental hands of the beginning of Neoclassicism. And here we can see some of that perfect polished finish that I was mentioning with Mengs' official portraits, with his formal portraits. One idea of Mengs' art was really that art should not reproduce any of the ugliness, any of the imperfections of real life, but that we should always be looking for ideal beauty, for universal beauty. And this was one of the reasons that he always insists on the importance of looking at classical sculpture, for instance, and other artists that did the same thing, other artists that were able to capture this essence of ideal beauty. And one of the artists that he most closely follows is Raphael, and also Correggio. And so this exhibit shows a lot of this comparison between Mengs' work and Correggio and Raphael. Here we have this beautiful Correggio of Noli Me Tangere, which is also going to influence a Noli Me Tangere that we'll see done by Mengs. And another one of the pieces that we have by Mengs that is in the Prado's collection, and we have it here in the exhibit, and it looks beautiful how it's displayed, is this Adoration of the Shepherds. Now, in 1761, Mengs was hired as a court painter in Madrid for Charles III. At that time, Corrado Giacinto was already at court. Tiepolo would arrive shortly thereafter. And the main project was the decoration of the new royal palace at that time, after the original Alcázar of Madrid had burned down. So today, if you do visit the royal palace, you'll be able to see a lot of Mengs' frescoes that are wonderful throughout. And in 1771, 1772, Mengs completed this painting of the Adoration of the Shepherds. He actually made 3 different versions of this subject of the Adoration. The first is a canvas, which is now in the National Gallery of Art in Washington. The second was a fresco to replace that canvas, and that fresco was destroyed in 1880. And the third is this version now that we have in the Museo del Prado. And he received the commission for the painting in Madrid. And we know that he hired somebody to make the panel in Madrid, and he also hired the frame to be made in Madrid, but then he actually did the painting when he was in Rome. He went to Rome to work for those years. And it's interesting, we can even see probably with the way the light is falling on the painting that this panel, this painted on panel, is made up of 12 different panels that are bound together horizontally, which is not common. Normally these are bound together vertically. So it's something that is a little bit different about this painting. And once it was complete, Mengs he displayed it in his studio in Rome for some time before sending it back to Madrid, where it would go into the royal collection, and it was immediately hailed as the painting of the century. And in it we see the Virgin Mary here in the center, and she's holding Jesus, and it looks like the light from this painting really is emanating from this group, right? It seems like they're just lighting up the rest of the scene, and we can see all of these nuances of shadow, these beautiful gradations of light on the shepherds and on Joseph, on the angels above, and even on the self-portrait of Mengs on the side. He's included himself here, kind of showing us the scene, but also in some way kind of claiming the authorship of this painting that was so well received. And Mengs was really demanding on himself. He was really a perfectionist. He was actually an obsessive painter and would take a very long time to finish his paintings. So for him to be satisfied with this painting was really saying a lot. He said he could never finish a painting because there's always one more brushstroke that he could add. He said that this painting did bring him at least a little satisfaction. So we know that it must have met his standards. And we have to think also of this relationship with Correggio once again, because this looks very much like the nighttime Holy Family scene by Correggio that Mengs would have seen in Dresden. So here we see him again talking to those great painters that he was trying to emulate throughout his life. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again next week, and I hope to see you in the course in March as well.